I remember standing in that bridal suite, staring at my phone, reading the message over and over until the words stopped making sense. Sweetie, I know you love you, but your brother just surprised us with this incredible resort package. It's non-refundable. You understand, right? You've always been so understanding. Understanding. That word had defined my entire existence. Understanding when my brother got the bigger bedroom, understanding when my parents paid for his college but not mine, understanding when every family dinner revolved around his latest achievement, his newest girlfriend, his ambitious career moves. I had become so good at making excuses for people who never made excuses for me. My wedding was in 3 hours. I set the phone down carefully, as if it might shatter, and looked at myself in the mirror. The dress was perfect, my makeup flawless. Everything I had planned for months was coming together beautifully, except the one person who was supposed to be there from the beginning. My maid of honor found me like that, frozen, staring at my own reflection, with tears I refused to let fall. "She's not coming," I whispered. I was 7 years old the first time I realized I was invisible. My brother Marcus had just won some elementary school science fair, and my parents threw him a celebration dinner at his favorite restaurant. I had brought home straight A's that same week. My report card sat unopened for 3 days before my mother finally glanced at it and said, "That's nice, honey," without looking up from her phone. Marcus was 3 years older, charming, athletic, the kind of child people noticed. I was quiet, studious, the daughter who never caused problems, because I learned early that problems meant I would be even more invisible than I already was. "Why can't you be more like your brother?" became a refrain I heard so often, it just became background noise, like the hum of the refrigerator or the tick of the hallway clock. I convinced myself that love came in different forms, that my parents showed their affection through stability, through keeping a roof over my head, through the occasional distracted smile when I achieved something they couldn't ignore. I told myself that Marcus needed more attention because he was struggling, because he was working through something, because boys were different. I became an expert at making excuses for people who never made excuses for me. When I got into college, I paid my own way. Scholarships, part-time jobs, summer internships that left me exhausted but determined. Marcus's education had been handed to him like a birthright. Mine felt like something I had to steal in the night, quietly, so no one would notice I was taking what should have been freely given. My parents never asked how I managed. They simply assumed I would, because I always did. Understanding. I met Daniel during my junior year. He was kind in a way that felt foreign to me, offering help without expecting anything in return, listening when I spoke instead of waiting for his turn to talk. Our relationship grew slowly, carefully, like a plant that had finally found the right amount of sunlight after years in the shade. When he proposed, I cried. Not the pretty tears you see in movies, but deep, shaking sobs that came from a place I didn't know existed. He held me and didn't ask why, didn't demand explanations. He just understood. Actually understood. Not the performative understanding I had spent my life offering others. Real understanding. I called my mother that night, breathless with joy, expecting, I don't know what I expected. Excitement, maybe? Happiness for me? Some acknowledgement that this was a significant moment? "Oh, that's wonderful, dear. Can you believe it? Marcus just got promoted again. He's the youngest regional manager they've ever had." I sat there, engagement ring catching the light, while my mother spent 20 minutes detailing my brother's career achievements. When she finally paused, I tried again. "Mom, about the wedding." "Oh, of course we'll be there. You know that. When were you thinking?" Hope flickered in my chest. Fragile. Dangerous. Next June. I was hoping you'd help me plan. June is so far away. Let's talk about it closer to the date. I have to run. Marcus is calling on the other line. The line went dead. I looked at Daniel, who had watched this entire exchange with growing concern. She was distracted. She's just busy. Even then, I was making excuses. The wedding planning became something I did alone. My future mother-in-law stepped in where my own mother remained absent. She helped me choose flowers, sample cakes, debate between ivory and cream for the table linens. Every decision I made, I imagined sharing with my mother. Every choice felt hollow without her input. I told myself she would show up, that when the day actually arrived, she would be there. Because what kind of mother misses her daughter's wedding? I sent her updates, photos of the dress, details about the venue. She responded with short, encouraging texts that felt copy-pasted from some generic well-wishing database. Beautiful. So excited. Can't wait. But she never called, never visited, never asked to be involved in any meaningful way. Marcus, meanwhile, had broken up with his girlfriend of 2 years and was, according to my mother, going through a really hard time. Every conversation somehow circled back to his emotional state, his need for family support, his struggles with being single again. I swallowed my disappointment and sent him an invitation anyway. Olive branch. Peace offering. Another attempt to be the understanding sister. He RSVP'd yes with a +1 listed as TBD. 3 weeks before the wedding, my mother finally called. Actual voice communication. I nearly dropped my phone, I was so surprised. "I've been thinking about your big day," she said, warmth in her voice that I hadn't heard in years. "I want you to know how proud I am of you." Something inside me cracked open. All the resentment, all the hurt felt manageable, forgivable. She was trying. That was enough. "Thank you, Mom. That means everything. I've been so busy, but I'm clearing my schedule. Your wedding is a priority." A priority. I held on to that word like a lifeline. We talked for an hour. She asked about the ceremony, the reception, and my honeymoon plans. I told her everything, words spilling out in a rush of relief. She listened, she laughed. She sounded like the mother I had always wanted. When we hung up, I felt lighter than I had in months. Daniel found me smiling at nothing, lost in thoughts. "Good news?" he asked. "She's coming," I said. "She's really coming." He kissed my forehead but said nothing. Later, I would understand the concern in his eyes, the way he held me a little tighter, as if bracing for impact. The text came on the morning of the wedding. Not a call, not a conversation, a text message. I had been awake since 5, too excited to sleep, running through mental checklists and timelines. My bridesmaids were due to arrive in an hour. Hair and makeup would take most of the morning. The ceremony was scheduled for 2. My phone buzzed. I picked it up, expecting a good luck message from a friend. Instead, I found a paragraph of casual betrayal. Marcus had surprised them with a last-minute vacation package, some luxury resort in the Caribbean, non-refundable, leaving today. My mother was sorry, but surely I understood. I had always been so understanding. She would make it up to me. They would celebrate when they got back. My father had added a separate message. "Your mother really wanted to be there. This trip is important for Marcus's healing. He needs us right now." Marcus needed them. On my wedding day. I sat on the edge of my bed in my pajamas, reading those messages until my vision blurred. The rational part of my brain tried to make sense of it, tried to find the understanding I had spent my whole life cultivating. But something else was rising in me, something cold and clarifying. They had chosen, actively, deliberately chosen, This wasn't an emergency. No one was sick or dying. My brother had planned a vacation and decided it was more important than my wedding, and my parents had agreed. The message was clear. You have never mattered as much as he does. I got married without my mother. Daniel's family filled the empty seats. Friends I had collected over years of being the reliable one, the one who showed up, rallied around me. The ceremony was beautiful. My vows were heartfelt. The reception was everything I had planned. But there was a hole in every moment, an absence that echoed. When the photographer asked for family photos, I smiled and posed with my in-laws. When someone asked where my parents were, I said they couldn't make it and changed the subject. When Daniel squeezed my hand during dinner and whispered, "Are you okay?" I nodded and lied. I was supposed to be understanding. On my honeymoon, my mother sent photos from the resort. Marcus grinning on a jet ski, my parents in matching tropical shirts, the sunset from their balcony. "Wish you were here," the caption read. I stared at that message for a long time. Wish you were here. Not wish we were there. Not sorry we missed your special day. Just a casual, thoughtless comment that confirmed what I had always known. I was an afterthought, a checkbox on their list of obligations, easily unchecked when something better came along. I didn't respond. For the first time in my life, I didn't rush to smooth things over, to be understanding, to make everyone comfortable with their choices. I just stopped. The months after my wedding were quiet. My mother called a few times, chattering about the vacation, about Marcus's new apartment, about everything except the fact that she had abandoned me on the most important day of my life. I kept the conversations short, polite, surface level. "How are you?" "Fine." "How's married life?" "Good." "We should get together soon." "Maybe." No accusations, no confrontations, just a slow, steady withdrawal of the emotional labor I had been providing for free my entire life. My mother didn't notice, or if she did, she didn't care enough to ask. Marcus, meanwhile, had started dating someone new, a whirlwind romance that my parents described with the kind of enthusiasm they had never shown for my relationship with Daniel. Within weeks, they were talking about how serious it was, how happy Marcus seemed, how this girl might be the one. 6 months after my wedding, I received a group text. "Family gathering this Saturday, celebrating Marcus's engagement. Can't wait to see everyone." My thumb hovered over the keyboard. A familiar pressure built in my chest. The old me would have said yes immediately, would have brought a gift, would have smiled and congratulated and played my role. I looked at Daniel across the room. He was reading, comfortable in our shared space in this life we had built without my family's involvement or approval. "You don't have to go," he said without looking up. "I know. But knowing and doing are different things." I showed up to the family gathering because I wasn't ready to burn bridges. Not yet. The house was decorated with engagement balloons and a banner. My mother had made Marcus's favorite foods. My father was already setting up the camera for photos. "There she is." My mother hugged me like we were close, like she hadn't missed my wedding for a vacation. "We've missed you." I returned the hug mechanically and moved into the house. Marcus's fiancée was lovely, genuinely kind, the type of person who didn't deserve to be used as a prop in whatever family dynamic this had become. I congratulated her sincerely. "Your brother talks about you all the time," she said, smiling. "He says you're the responsible one." Responsible. The translation of invisible. Dinner was the usual performance, my parents fawned over Marcus and his fiancée. They asked about wedding plans with genuine interest, offering to help with anything they needed. My mother even suggested they use the same venue I had chosen. "It was beautiful," she said casually, as if she had been there. Something inside me went very still. "Was it?" I asked quietly. She blinked. "What?" "You said the venue was beautiful. How would you know?" The table went silent. My mother's face did something complicated. "Well, I saw the photos you posted. But you weren't there." "Honey, we talked about this. The timing." "We didn't talk about anything. You sent a text on my wedding day and chose a vacation." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Can we not do this right now?" I looked at him. Really looked at him. He had the grace to look away. "When's the wedding?" I asked his fiancée. "Next fall," she said carefully, sensing the tension but not understanding its source. "How exciting!" I turned to my mother. "I'm sure you'll be there for that one." The conversation moved on. Someone changed the subject. We pretended nothing had happened. But something had shifted. A crack in the foundation that had been supporting this dysfunctional family structure for my entire life. After dinner, my mother cornered me in the kitchen. "That was uncalled for," she said, her voice low and tight. "Was it?" "You're being petty. It was months ago. We explained the situation." "You didn't explain anything. You made a choice. Your brother needed us. And I didn't?" She looked genuinely confused. "You're always so strong, so independent. Marcus needs more support." There it was, the truth she had never directly stated, but had always believed. My independence was punishment for being competent. My strength meant I deserved less care. I had learned not to need them because needing them was pointless. And now that learned behavior was being used as justification for their neglect. "I needed you on my wedding day," I said quietly, "and you chose not to be there. That's not about strength or independence. That's about you deciding I don't matter as much as he does. That's not fair. Isn't it?" My mother's eyes filled with tears. The same tears she had cried every time I had tried to establish a boundary, to express hurt, to ask for something she didn't want to give. "You're my mother. How can you speak to me this way?" And there was the script, the guilt trip, the expectation that I would back down, apologize, become understanding again. Instead, I set down my wine glass and picked up my purse. "Where are you going?" she demanded. "Home." "But we're not finished." "I am." I walked out without looking back. Daniel was waiting in the car, parked down the street. He had given me space to try, but he had also been ready to extract me when I needed it. "How bad?" he asked. I told her the truth. He started the engine. How did that feel? I expected to feel guilty, anxious, worried about the fallout. Instead, I felt lighter. "I like breathing," I whispered. 2 weeks later, I received the invitation to Marcus's engagement party, a large, formal affair. My mother had added a handwritten note. "Please come. Family pictures won't be complete without you. Your brother is counting on you to give a toast. You've always been so good with words." I stared at that note for a long time. A toast. Of course. The understanding sister performing on command, celebrating the brother who had never once stood up for her, smiling for pictures that would hang in their house while my wedding photo sat unseen in an album my mother had never asked to look at. They wanted me to play my role one more time. I RSVP'd no. My mother called immediately. "You're not coming to your brother's party?" "No." "Why not? Everyone is expecting you. Marcus specifically asked you to give a toast." "Did he ask or did you volunteer me?" Silence. "This is ridiculous," she said finally. "You're being childish." "Maybe." "Your brother is going to be so hurt." "Is he? Because he wasn't hurt when you both missed my wedding. He went on that vacation. He chose a resort over watching his sister get married. So forgive me if I don't believe his feelings are suddenly fragile." That was different. It wasn't. It was the exact same choice. Him or me. And you chose him. You always choose him. "I need you to be there," my mother said, her voice shaking. "The family will talk if you're not." "Let them talk." "Please," she whispered, "just this once. After this, we can work on things, but I need you to show up for this." And there it was, the same promise she had made before my wedding. Show up now, be understanding now, and later, always later, we'll address your pain. "No," I said quietly. "I'm done showing up for people who don't show up for me." I hung up before she could respond. The engagement party happened without me. I heard about it later from the same aunt who had always been kind. She called me the next day, her voice careful. "Your mother asked me to reach out." Of course she did. "She's very upset. She wanted you to know that Marcus asked about you all night, that he was disappointed you weren't there." Was he disappointed enough to call me himself? Silence. "That's what I thought," I said. "There's something else," my aunt said slowly. "When it came time for toasts, your mother asked Marcus's best friend to speak, but he was drunk and forgot half his speech. It was awkward. Everyone kept looking at the empty spot where you should have been standing. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, just a distant recognition that absence had its own kind of power. Your mother tried to salvage it by giving a toast herself," my aunt continued. "She talked about family, about always being there for each other. Someone in the back, I think it was your cousin, said loud enough for people to hear, like she was there for her daughter's wedding." Now I felt something. "What did my mother do?" I asked. "She left the room. Your father had to finish the toast. The rest of the party was tense. People kept whispering. Marcus looked miserable." Good, I thought. Let him feel a fraction of what I felt. "Your mother wants to talk to you. She asked me to set up a coffee meeting, neutral ground. Tell her she can call me directly. I'm not interested in mediators." "She's afraid you won't answer." "Then she has her answer." 3 days later, my mother showed up at my door. I let her in because I was curious whether she had finally understood. She sat in my living room looking smaller than I remembered, older, her hands twisted in her lap. "I made a mistake," she said. I waited. "With your wedding, I should have been there." "Yes," I said simply. "You should have." I thought Marcus was going through something. The breakup hit him hard. I thought he needed us more. And I didn't need you? "You've always been so strong." "Stop," I said, the words sharp enough to cut. "Stop using my strength as an excuse for your neglect. I learned to be strong because needing you was pointless, and now you're using the armor I had to build as justification for why you never protected me in the first place." She flinched. "Do you know what I needed on my wedding day? I needed my mother. Not a perfect mother, not a mother who had always gotten everything right, just a mother who chose to show up. And you couldn't even give me that." "I know," she whispered. "Do you? Because you're here asking for forgiveness, but nothing has changed. You still chose Marcus's engagement party over acknowledging what you did to me. You still made me the villain for not showing up to celebrate him when he didn't show up to celebrate me. I didn't think of it that way. That's the problem. You don't think of me at all. Not really. I'm just the understanding one, the one who makes things easy, the daughter you don't have to worry about because she'll always forgive, always smooth things over, always make sure everyone else is comfortable. Tears ran down her face. Tell me how to fix this. I don't know if you can. She looked stricken.
I'm not trying to be cruel, I said quietly. I'm being honest. You've spent my entire life teaching me that I matter less than Marcus, that my needs are negotiable, that my pain is something I should handle quietly so it doesn't inconvenience anyone. You can't undo that with an apology. Then what do I do? You stop asking me to make this easy for you. You sit with the discomfort of knowing you hurt me. You accept that I might not forgive you, and you don't make that my problem to solve. She left without another word. I expected relief. Instead, I felt hollow. Daniel found me sitting in the dark an hour later. Did she apologize? He asked. Yes. Did you forgive her? No. He sat beside me, not touching, just present. Do you want to forgive her? He asked, finally. I don't know. Part of me wants my mother back, but I don't know if the mother I want ever really existed. Maybe I've been chasing a fantasy my whole life. Maybe, he said. Or maybe she could become that person. People change. Do they? Or do they just promise to change until you stop holding them accountable? He didn't answer. There was no answer. Weeks passed. My mother called occasionally. I answered sometimes. The conversations were stilted, careful, both of us navigating new terrain without a map. She didn't push for forgiveness, didn't ask when things would go back to normal. She just tried, in small ways, asking about my life, listening when I talked, not mentioning Marcus unless I brought him up first. It wasn't enough, but it was something. Then Marcus called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. I need to talk to you, he said without preamble. Okay. Can we meet in person? I hesitated. Why? Because I owe you more than a phone call. We met at a coffee shop halfway between our houses. He looked terrible, exhausted, like he hadn't been sleeping. Thank you for coming, he said when I sat down. I didn't respond. I've been thinking about your wedding, about the vacation. I told myself it was okay because Mom and Dad were the ones who made the choice, that I was just going along with it. You were? But that's bullshit, isn't it? I knew what it meant. I knew they were choosing me over you. I always knew, and I let it happen because it benefited me. I stared at him, waiting for the excuse, the justification, the explanation that would make it okay. Instead, he said, I'm sorry, really sorry. Not because Mom told me to apologize, because I finally realized what I took from you. What did you take from me? I asked, genuinely curious what he thought the answer was. A family, he said quietly. Every time they chose me, I took your place in the family. I let you become invisible because it meant I got to stay in the spotlight. Something in my chest cracked. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But recognition. He saw it. Finally, he saw it. Why now? I asked. Why do you care now?
Because Sarah, my fiancé, asked why you weren't at the engagement party. I gave her some vague answer about you being busy. And she said, "That's strange. She came to our engagement dinner. Why wouldn't she come to the party?" He paused. I didn't have a good answer, so I told her the truth. About the wedding, about the vacation, about everything. And she looked at me like a stranger. What did she say? She asked if I would have married her if her parents had chosen her siblings' vacation over our wedding. And I said, no, of course not. That would be unforgivable. He met my eyes. And then I realized what I'd done to you, what I'd let happen, and I couldn't justify it anymore. I sat with that for a long moment. What do you want from me? I asked finally. Nothing, he said. I don't want you to forgive me. I don't want you to come to the wedding. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what I did, and I'm sorry. It wasn't enough. An apology couldn't give me back the years of being second best, couldn't undo the damage, couldn't restore what had been broken. But it was more than he had ever given me before. Thank you for telling me, I said. He nodded, started to stand. Marcus, I said. He looked back. Are you going to tell Mom and Dad this, that you finally understand what they did was wrong? He hesitated. I don't know. Then you don't understand, I said quietly. You see it now because Sarah made it real for you, because you imagined yourself in my position. But when it comes to actually standing up to them, to choosing me over keeping the peace, you're still choosing yourself. His face went pale. If you want me to believe you've changed, then change. Don't just apologize to me in private. Tell them, out loud, in front of the family. Let them know what they did was wrong, that you were wrong. Make them uncomfortable the way I've been uncomfortable my entire life. They'll be furious, he whispered. Yes, I said, they will, and you'll survive it, just like I did. I stood up and walked out. I didn't hear from Marcus for 3 weeks. Then my mother called, her voice tight and angry. What did you say to your brother? Why? He just told us he's uninviting us from his wedding unless we apologize to you, publicly, in front of the whole family. I sat down slowly. He what? He said he's been complicit in favoritism, that he let us mistreat you, that he's ashamed of the vacation, of the engagement party, of all of it. He said if we can't acknowledge what we did wrong, then we're not welcome at his wedding. I couldn't speak. This is your doing, my mother continued. You poisoned him against us. I told him the truth, that's all. If the truth poisoned him against you, maybe the problem isn't the truth. He's making a scene. People are talking. Your father is devastated. Good. The word came out cold. Final.
Why now? I asked. Why do you care now? Because Sarah, my fiancée, asked why you weren't at the engagement party. I gave her some vague answer about you being busy, and she said, "That's strange. She came to our engagement dinner. Why wouldn't she come to the party?" He paused. I didn't have a good answer, so I told her the truth about the wedding, about the vacation, about everything. And she looked at me like a stranger. What did she say? She asked if I would have married her if her parents had chosen her siblings' vacation over our wedding, and I said, no, of course not. That would be unforgivable. He met my eyes. And then I realized what I'd done to you, what I'd let happen, and I couldn't justify it anymore. I sat with that for a long moment. What do you want from me? I asked finally. Nothing, he said. I don't want you to forgive me. I don't want you to come to the wedding. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what I did, and I'm sorry. It wasn't enough. An apology couldn't give me back the years of being second best, couldn't undo the damage, couldn't restore what had been broken, but it was more than he had ever given me before. Thank you for telling me, I said. He nodded, started to stand. Marcus, I said. He looked back. Are you going to tell Mom and Dad this, that you finally understand what they did was wrong? He hesitated. I don't know. Then you don't understand, I said quietly. You see it now because Sarah made it real for you, because you imagined yourself in my position. But when it comes to actually standing up to them, to choosing me over keeping the peace, you're still choosing yourself. His face went pale. If you want me to believe you've changed, change. Don't just apologize to me in private. Tell them out loud, in front of the family. Let them know that what they did was wrong, that you were wrong. Make them uncomfortable the way I've been uncomfortable my entire life. They'll be furious, he whispered. Yes, I said, they will, and you'll survive it, just like I did. I stood up and walked out. I didn't hear from Marcus for 3 weeks. Then my mother called, her voice tight and angry. What did you say to your brother? Why? Because he just told us he's uninviting us from his wedding unless we apologize to you, publicly, in front of the whole family. I sat down slowly. What? He said he's complicit in favoritism, that he let us mistreat you, that he's ashamed of the vacation, of the engagement party, of all of it. He said if we can't acknowledge what we did wrong, then we're not welcome at his wedding. I couldn't speak. This is your doing, my mother continued. You poisoned him against us. I told him the truth. That's all. If the truth poisoned you against you, maybe the problem isn't the truth. He's making a scene. People are talking. Your father is devastated. Good. The word came out cold, final.
The silence in the room was absolute. My mother looked at my father, at Marcus, at the assembled family. Then, slowly, she looked at me. I chose a vacation over your wedding, she said, each word seeming to cost her something. And that was wrong. Why? I asked. What? Why was it wrong? She stared at me. Because it told you you didn't matter, she said, finally. Because it was the ultimate proof of something I'd been showing you your whole life, that I would always choose your brother over you. Tears ran down her face. And I'm sorry. Not for your feelings, for my choices, for making you invisible, for taking your strength for granted, for all of it. I stood there, looking at my mother crying in front of her entire family, and felt nothing. No vindication, no satisfaction, just a hollow recognition that this moment had come too late, that no apology could give me back the years I'd spent trying to earn love that should have been given freely. Thank you, I said quietly. Then I walked toward the door. Wait, my mother called. Where are you going? I turned back. Home? To my husband, to the family I chose, the people who showed up for me when you wouldn't. But we're not done. Yes, I said, we are. You apologized, I heard it, but that doesn't mean everything is fixed. That doesn't mean I'm ready to pretend the past didn't happen. It just means you finally acknowledged it. So what now? She asked. Now you prove it. Not with words, with actions. Consistently. Over time. Maybe eventually I'll believe you've changed, but that's on you to show me, not on me to trust. Marcus stood up. Will you come to my wedding? I looked at him, at the man who had finally chosen to stand up for me, even when it cost him something. Yes, I said. I'll come to your wedding. Relief flooded his face. But not for you, I continued. For me, because I deserve to celebrate finding someone who loves me enough to stand up for me, even if it took you 30 years to figure that out. I left the gathering and drove home in silence. Daniel was waiting on the porch when I pulled up. How did it go? He asked. She apologized.
in front of everyone. How do you feel? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Empty, I said finally. I thought I would feel vindicated or satisfied or something, but I just feel empty. He pulled me close. That's grief, he said quietly. You're grieving the mother you should have had, the one who would have shown up the first time, the one who wouldn't have needed your brother to force her hand. Tears came then. Not angry tears, just sad ones. I cried for the little girl who had tried so hard to be good enough, for the bride who had walked down the aisle with a hole in her heart, for all the versions of myself who had accepted less than I deserved. And somewhere in that grief, I found something else. Relief. Because I was done. Not done with my family, necessarily, but done with trying to earn what should have been mine by birthright. Done being understanding when understanding meant diminishing myself. Done playing small so everyone else could stay comfortable. Marcus's wedding was beautiful. My mother and father were there, quieter than usual, watching, careful, like they were walking on glass and knew it. When Marcus and Sarah exchanged vows, he looked at me during his speech about family, about learning what it meant to truly show up for the people you love, about realizing that love without action was just empty words. My mother cried, but this time she didn't make it about her. At the reception, she approached me carefully. "You look beautiful," she said. "Thank you. Can I sit with you just for a minute?" I looked at Daniel. He squeezed my hand and moved to give us space. My mother sat down slowly, like she wasn't sure she was welcome. "I've started therapy," she said. "Okay." "The therapist asked me to describe my children. I talked about Marcus for 40 minutes. When she asked about you," her voice cracked, "I realized I only talked about what you do, your job, your accomplishments. But I couldn't describe who you are. I don't know who you are." I looked at her, really looked at her. She seemed smaller, older, breakable in a way I'd never allowed myself to see. "That's not my fault," I said quietly. "I know. It's mine. I made you invisible, and then I resented you for being invisible. I took your independence as proof I didn't need to try, but you were only independent because I gave you no choice." It wasn't enough, but it was more honest than anything she'd ever said to me. "I don't know if I can forgive you. Not yet. Maybe not ever." "I understand." "Do you? Because forgiveness isn't something you earn by suffering the right amount. It's not a transaction. I might never feel safe with you again, and that has to be okay." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Can I ask you something?" "What?" "When did you decide to stop trying, to stop being the understanding one?" I thought back to that morning, the text message, the casual cruelty of it. When I realized that understanding was just another word for invisible, that being easy to love meant I would never be loved enough. She absorbed that. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for all of it, for making you fight for scraps, for teaching you that your pain didn't matter, for choosing him over you so many times you stopped expecting anything different." "I know you are." "Does that help?" "A little," I said honestly, "but mostly I just needed to hear you say it, to acknowledge that it happened, that I didn't imagine it." She reached for my hand. I let her take it. "I'm going to do better," she said. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I'm going to try. Then try. But know that I'm not going to make it easy for you. I'm not going to pretend everything is fine because it makes you comfortable. If you want a relationship with me, it's going to be on my terms, with boundaries, with honesty, with the understanding that trust isn't given, it's earned. I can do that. We'll see.
Months passed. My mother called weekly. Not to talk about Marcus, not to make excuses, just to ask about my life. To listen. To learn who I was beyond the role I'd played. Sometimes I answered, sometimes I didn't. She stopped pushing, stopped demanding forgiveness, just showed up, consistently, quietly. It wasn't dramatic. There was no grand moment of reconciliation, just slow, painful rebuilding. She offered to help with things. I said no most of the time, but sometimes I said yes, and when I did, she followed through. Marcus called occasionally. We talked, awkwardly at first, then more easily. He was trying too, learning to see me instead of just assuming I'd always be there. My father, quieter than both of them, sent cards, short notes. Thinking of you, proud of you. Small acknowledgments that accumulated over time. I didn't forgive them, not fully. Maybe I never would. But I stopped carrying their choices as proof of my worthlessness. I learned to separate their failure from my value. And in that separation, I found something I'd never had before: peace. 2 years after my wedding, Daniel and I hosted Thanksgiving. My in-laws came, some friends, and, after much consideration, my parents and Marcus. It was strange having them in my home, in the space I'd built without them. My mother brought flowers, my father brought wine, Marcus brought his wife and their new baby. We sat around the table, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel invisible. Because I had learned that visibility wasn't something they could give me. It was something I claimed for myself. When my mother started to fall into old patterns, talking about Marcus's promotion, his new house, I interrupted. "Mom," I said quietly. She stopped. "I need you to hear me. If this is going to work, I need to exist in this family as more than Marcus's sister. I need to be seen." The table went silent. My mother looked stricken. Then she nodded. "You're right. I'm sorry. Tell me about your work, about your life. I want to know." And she listened, really listened. Didn't compare, didn't redirect. It was a small thing, but small things mattered. That night, after everyone left, Daniel found me washing dishes. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Tired," I admitted, "but okay. Better than okay." "Your mom tried." "She did. It's still hard, probably always will be, but she tried." He wrapped his arms around me from behind. "You know what I realized today?" I said. "What?" This was my revenge. Not the confrontation, not the public apology. This. Having them in my world, on my terms, with my boundaries, making them exist in my world instead of always contorting myself to fit into theirs. "That's not revenge. That's healing," he said. "Maybe it's both." I don't know if this story has a happy ending. My relationship with my mother is complicated. Some days are good. Some days I remember everything and can barely look at her. Some days she reverts to old patterns, and I have to remind her that I'm not the understanding daughter anymore. Marcus and I are cordial. Maybe one day we'll be close, maybe not. My father remains quiet, showing love in small ways that feel insufficient, but are more than he gave before. But here's what I know. I didn't get the mother I deserved. the one who would have shown up without being forced, the one who would have chosen me first, just once, without my brother having to demand it. But I got myself back. I learned that boundaries aren't cruelty, that choosing yourself isn't selfish, that demanding to be seen isn't asking too much. I learned that the people who love you will rise to meet your needs, and the ones who don't will resent you for having needs at all. I learned that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. No yelling, no scenes, just quiet withdrawal, just absence that speaks louder than any confrontation ever could. My mother missed my wedding for a vacation. That's a fact I can't change. But I can change what I do with that fact. I can let it define me, or I can let it teach me. It taught me that I deserved better. It taught me that love without respect is worthless. It taught me that being easy to hurt doesn't make you strong. Setting boundaries does. The real revenge wasn't humiliating her. It was refusing to be humiliated anymore. It was standing in that family gathering and demanding acknowledgement. It was Marcus finally seeing what had been done to me and choosing to stand up, even when it cost him. It was my mother having to sit with the discomfort of her choices instead of me absorbing that discomfort for her. It was learning that I didn't need their validation to know my worth. The wedding they missed was beautiful. I know, because I was there, because I showed up for myself when they wouldn't. And every day since, I've continued showing up for myself. That's the revenge. Not their suffering, but my refusal to suffer for them anymore. Not their punishment, but my liberation. Not making them small, but finally allowing myself to be big. I am my mother's daughter. I learned everything from her. How to choose, how to prioritize, how to decide what matters. I just chose differently than she expected. I chose myself. And in the end, that was the most devastating thing I could have done, because it forced her to see what she'd been choosing all along, and it forced me to see that I deserved better. That I always had. That quiet girl who learned to be invisible, she's gone. In her place is someone who takes up space, who demands to be seen, who walks away from people who can't meet her halfway. Someone who understands that loving yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. That's my revenge. That's my victory. That's my peace.